Okay, let's dive in. We're talking about TikTok, and wow, 170 million Americans using it. That's just a staggering number.
It really is a huge chunk of the digital landscape.
But there's this massive cloud hanging over it, right? This law that says, pretty bluntly, sell yourself, get rid of ByteDance, or you're switched off in the U.S.
That's the core of it, divest or face a ban. And the Supreme Court, well, they essentially gave it the legal green light.
But then you have the White House, and they seem to keep hitting snooze on the actual deadline for enforcement. It's confusing.
It is confusing. You have this legal certainty meeting this political reality. The law says one thing, the enforcement timeline keeps shifting.
So that's the tension, isn't it? Is this ban actually going to happen, or is this just a really, really long political negotiation playing out? And crucially, what if that fuse does burn down? What happens to everyone who's built something on that platform?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the question everyone's grappling with. Lawmakers, the company itself, creators, users, everyone. Laws set the rules, but deadlines, well, deadlines force action. And these deadlines have become, let's say, quite flexible. So our job today is to cut through all that, the legal jargon, the political moves. We need to figure out what the ruling actually means, what the real deadlines look like now, and most importantly, what you, especially if you're a creator, should be doing about it.
Right now. That's the mission. We're going to decode the legal foundation, track this shifting timeline, this deadline dance, and then lay out a practical checklist. Think of it as like an insurance policy against all this uncertainty.
Yeah, we've waded through the court rulings, the executive orders, the expert analysis. The goal is to put it all together for you. Understand the ruling, understand the delays, and understand what enforcement day would actually mean.
Okay, sounds like a plan. So here's how we'll break it down. First, the legal stuff. The Supreme Court decision, why it's the bedrock. Then the politics that deadline dance, those 4 extensions we've seen, what's driving those?
Makes sense.
Third, the practical side. What does enforcement day look like? Because it's not just poof, gone, it's more complicated.
It definitely is. More of a slow squeeze.
And finally, the action plan, that creator survival kit, what you need to do.
Okay, a survival guide for navigating a geopolitical tightrope walk involving the world's biggest social platform. Sounds about right. Let's start with the legal foundation, the bedrock.
All right, let's get into that legal foundation first, because everything else hinges on this, right? The delays don't mean much if the underlying law wasn't solid. You mentioned January 17th, 2025. Why is that date so critical? What actually happened then?
January 17th, 2025. That was really the moment the legal argument ended, you could say. That's when the U.S. Supreme Court handed down its decision. They rejected TikTok's big challenge to the law.
The one based on free speech?
Exactly. TikTok argued the law violated the First Amendment, but the Supreme Court didn't buy it. They upheld the law, the one requiring ByteDance to divest or face a ban in the U.S. That was the final word, legally speaking.
Okay, so the free speech argument didn't hold up. What argument did Congress make that convinced the court? Because forcing a company to sell or shut down, that seems like a pretty extreme measure. It
is extreme, and the court acknowledged that, but they ultimately sided with Congress on the grounds of national security. That was the key justification.
National security. That sounds broad. What specifically were the concerns?
Well, the legal filings, the sources we looked at, they detailed 2 main risks that the court found compelling. First, there's the data risk.
Right, we hear a lot about data.
Yeah, the argument is because ByteDance is based in China, the Chinese government could potentially compel the company, under its own laws, to hand over user data. And we're talking about vast amounts of data from those 170 million American users, location, browsing habits, maybe even biometric data from filters. The court saw that potential for data exfiltration to a foreign government as a serious enough national security threat to justify the law.
So it wasn't just general privacy worries. It was the specific risk tied to China's government potentially accessing U.S. user data.
Precisely. But there was a second risk, too. And this one arguably cuts even deeper because it's about the platform's core function.
Which is?
The algorithm, the For You page. Congress argued successfully that a Chinese-controlled parent company could be forced to manipulate what Americans see.
Manipulate how? Like censorship.
Censorship, potentially, yes, but also subtly promoting certain narratives, suppressing others. Think about influencing views on elections or international relations or social issues. The potential to use the algorithm as a sort of state-influenced propaganda tool directed at millions of Americans. The court found that risk credible, too.
Okay, so the court said Congress can force this based on both data security and the potential for algorithmic manipulation. That's
Right.
quite a powerful ruling.
It is. It established that, from a U.S. constitutional standpoint, this divest-or-ban mechanism is legal on national security grounds. The legal spine, as you called it, is definitely strong. Any delays we're seeing now aren't because the law is shaky in court. They're happening for other reasons.
That's a really important distinction. The law stands, period. But hang on, there's a huge catch here, right? A sale sounds straightforward, but you mentioned something in the sources. It depends on more than just finding a U.S. buyer, something about China.
Yes, absolutely critical point. We have to talk about the sale contingency right now because it puts a massive asterisk next to this whole divest part of the law. For a sale to actually happen, for TikTok to keep operating smoothly under new U.S. ownership, two really big things need to fall into place.
Okay, all right.
First, obviously you need an approved U.S. buyer, someone capable of handling such a massive acquisition, someone acceptable to the U.S. government. That's complex enough.
Right. Trillion-dollar company, basically.
Pretty much. But the second part is the real kicker. China has to approve the export of the algorithm's intellectual property, the IP.
The secret sauce. What exactly does that IP cover?
The code. It's the source code, yes, but also the machine learning models, the recommendation engine. Basically, everything that makes the For You page so uncannily good at knowing what you want to watch next. That's the core value.
And China might not let that go.
China considers that algorithm a key national tech asset. They've signaled pretty strongly they are not keen on exporting it. So if they refuse to let the IP transfer as part of the sale,
Then what does the buyer actually get?
you get the brand name, the user base, the employees, but not the engine that powers the whole thing. The platform would be severely hobbled or potentially wouldn't work the same way at all.
So even if someone like Microsoft or Oracle writes a giant check, if China says no on the algorithm IP, the deal is effectively dead, or at least fundamentally changed.
That's the massive uncertainty. There's no magic wand here. The U.S. law can force ByteDance to try to sell, but it can't force China to approve the export of the core technology.
Wow. So the court validated the law, but the execution of the law, that's stuck in this geopolitical tug of war.
Precisely. And because the court upheld the law, but left the timing and enforcement details to the executive branch, the president, well, that's what created the opening for all these delays. That handoff is key.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. The legal ground is solid, but the path forward is incredibly messy. Which leads us right into segment 2, tracking these delays, this deadline dance.
Right. So segment 1 was the legal certainty. Now we pivot to the political fluidity. Because what we've seen since that Supreme Court ruling is the executive branch basically hitting the snooze button repeatedly.
Why, though? If the law is solid and the security risks are validated, why delay?
Well, the pattern strongly suggests a preference for trying to force the sale, rather than dealing with the political explosion that would come from actually shutting down a platform used by 170 million Americans. The delays buy time for negotiation.
Okay, so let's run through that timeline. What was the very first deadline we were looking at after the SCOTUS decision?
Initially, the focus was around January 19th, 2025. That was pegged as the date when the first real consequences would kick in, specifically targeting the app stores.
The app stores, Apple and Google. They're the main choke point, right? We need to be clear on that.
Absolutely. They are the primary lever. If the government orders them to stop distributing TikTok in the U.S., they have to comply. Apple stated publicly, very early on, that they would comply if enforcement was triggered. Google's in the same position. They follow the laws in the countries where they operate. It's not really optional for them.
So that answers a big question people have. Could Apple or Google just refuse?
No, not realistically. The penalties for non-compliance would be enormous. So the app stores will act when told. The when is the part the White House controls.
Got it. Compliance is mandatory for the app stores. So January 19th was the first potential D-Day, but it didn't happen. What came next?
Right. Before January 19th arrived, the White House issued the first official extension. They pushed the enforcement date out significantly, moving it to June 19th, 2025.
That's a 5-month delay. What was the thinking there, likely?
Well, several things. It gave ByteDance time to absorb the Supreme Court loss and maybe start exploring sale options seriously. It also, importantly, kicked the can down the road, avoiding a massive, politically unpopular shutdown right at the start of the year. Keep things running through the spring.
Makes political sense. Okay, so what happened as June 19th approached?
Same story, different date. The deadline was extended again. This time it was pushed to September 17th, 2025. Another delay, covering the summer months.
And the rationale for that delay, still trying to negotiate a sale?
That seems to be the consistent theme. Reports during that summer period indicated ongoing, albeit private, talks about potential U.S. buyers. The administration kept signaling they wanted more time, implying they were pursuing a sales solution. Extending the deadline allows them to keep saying, we're working on a resolution that avoids a ban, even if progress is slow or stalled.
So it's using the threat of the ban as leverage, essentially. Keep the pressure on ByteDance, but avoid the political pain of actually pulling the trigger.
Exactly. If the goal was just a straightforward shutdown, they could have enforced it much earlier. The repeated delays are the clearest signal that the preferred outcome, politically, is divestiture, not a ban. It's about managing the fallout from angering, well, a massive user base.
Which brings us to the latest extension. Where are we now?
The most recent extension pushed the date out again, this time all the way to December 16th, 2025.
December 16th. Okay. That takes us past the election, through the holidays.
Highly strategic timing, wouldn't you say? It keeps the legal pressure on ByteDance right through the end of the year, maximizing the time for a deal to potentially emerge while pushing the actual enforcement action and the political headache that comes with it as far down the calendar as possible.
December 16th, 2025. That's the date we need to circle on our calendars for now. The story is clear. The law is upheld, but the clock keeps getting reset. It feels like a high-stakes negotiation playing out through deadline extensions.
You could absolutely frame it that way. The White House is wielding the enforcement timeline like a tool. They've shown they can shut it down legally, but they're choosing delay, likely hoping for that sale. Which makes the question of what happens on enforcement day itself even more critical. What exactly is the threat they keep postponing?
Perfect transition. Let's get practical. Segment 3. What does enforcement day actually look like if December 16th arrives and there's no sale, no further delay? Because it's not the app just disappearing overnight, right?
Right. We need to tackle that big misconception head on. People imagine hitting the TikTok icon on enforcement day and getting like a black screen or an error message. Is that a word? Does it just vanish?
No, definitely not. That poof idea, it's just not how these things are implemented technically or legally against a massive digital platform. Enforcement day isn't an instant off switch for every phone. It's more like cutting off the platform's lifelines.
Okay, lifelines. Let's break that down. What are the specific choke points? What actually happens?
There are 3 main mechanisms that would kick in, leading to a pretty rapid decline of the app in the US. The first, and the most immediate, is stopping App Store distribution.
So Apple and Google again.
Exactly. This is the easiest lever for the government to pull because, as we said, Apple and Google will comply.
And what does that mean practically on day 1 of enforcement? Day 1, TikTok and probably related apps like CapCut, if they're included in the order, disappear from the U.S. App Store and Google Play Store. Instantly.
What's the impact of that?
2 massive impacts. First, 0 new users. Growth in the U.S. market stops cold. Second, existing users who delete the app or get a new phone or reset their current one, they can't reinstall it. The user base is immediately cut off from any new blood or easy recovery.
Okay, so the pool of users starts shrinking immediately. But what about the app that's already on my phone? I still have it, right?
You do, for a while. But that brings us to the second mechanism, which is maybe more insidious. The updates freeze and the decay of the app itself.
Decay. Explain that. How does an app decay?
Well, think about how often your apps update. Sometimes daily, right? For security, for new features, for compatibility. On enforcement day, all updates for the US version of TikTok would stop.
And why is that so bad?
Several reasons, based on how these platforms work. First, security goes out the window. Apps like TikTok need constant patching to fix vulnerabilities. Without updates, the app becomes progressively less secure, more prone to bugs, crashing, and potentially even malicious exploits. Using it becomes a growing security risk.
Okay, that's a big one people might not think about. It's not just missing cool new filters.
Right. Second, feature stagnation. All those new editing tools, new sounds, new monetization features, TikTok rolls out globally. US users wouldn't get them. The app would feel old and outdated very quickly compared to the global version and competitors like Reels or Shorts. It loses parity.
So the US version gets stuck in time, essentially, December 2025 forever.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And third, there's just basic incompatibility over time. The app on your phone needs to talk to TikTok servers constantly. As those servers and the global infrastructure get updated, the old, frozen US app might start having trouble communicating correctly. Things just stop working properly. It's like trying to run modern web software on a 10-year-old browser. Eventually, it breaks.
So, day one, no new downloads. Within weeks or months, the existing app becomes buggy, insecure, and outdated. That sounds like a death spiral. Is there anything faster, though? A way to accelerate the shutdown?
There is. The third lever, restricting the hosting and network services. This is the government's trump card, potentially.
How would that work?
It depends on how aggressive the specific executive order is written. But technically, the government could order U.S. internet service providers, the big backbone networks, maybe even cloud providers that TikTok uses in the U.S., to basically stop or severely limit traffic to and from TikTok servers for U.S. users.
So they could block it at the network level, like tell Comcast or Verizon not to let TikTok data through.
They could try things like DNS blocking or potentially more complex network routing instructions like messing with BGP to effectively throttle or block TikTok's traffic within the U.S.
Wow, and the effect of that would be?
Immediate and severe. Videos wouldn't load, the feed wouldn't refresh, uploading might fail. The app would become unusable almost instantly for users in the U.S. This is how you go from decaying to broken very, very quickly.
Okay, that paints a much clearer picture. It's not a poof. It's a coordinated strangulation of the app's infrastructure and distribution. Distribution stops first, decay sets in over weeks, and network blocking is the potential kill switch.
That's a good summary. The goal is clearly to make the platform unviable in the U.S. market, forcing users and creators to migrate elsewhere.
Which is the perfect lead-in to our final and maybe most crucial segment. What should creators be doing right now to prepare? The survival kit.
Okay.
Right? This is where the rubber meets the road. We know the deadline, December 16th, possibly. We know the risks, App Store removal, decay, potential network blocks. So for creators, for brands, for anyone relying on TikTok professionally, what's the action plan? Let's lay out that four-step hedge.
Exactly. This is about building resilience. You simply can't bet your entire business on a platform whose existence in its current form is subject to these kinds of geopolitical winds and legal battles. It's time to build some lifeboats.
Okay. Step one, own your contact list. This sounds fundamental. How do creators actually do that?
It means getting your audience's contact info off of TikTok and into a channel you control. The main action here is setting up a dedicated landing page. Think Linktree, but ideally something hosted on your own website or a service you pay for directly.
And what's the goal of that landing page?
The absolute focus needs to be collecting email addresses and SMS numbers. Get those opt-ins.
Why both? Isn't email enough?
Email is vital for long-term nurturing and monetization, yes, but SMS gives you immediacy. If TikTok suddenly starts failing on December 16th, you need a way to reach your core fans instantly and tell them where to find you next. Hey, I'm focusing on YouTube Shorts now, here's the link. And SMS cuts through the noise like nothing else in that kind of crisis moment.
Okay, so the principle is, make your main call to action in every TikTok video from now on. Drive people to your landing page to sign up for email and SMS updates, not just follow me on Instagram.
Precisely. That list becomes your sovereign asset. It's independent of any single platform. It's the core of your business resilience. Priority number one.
Got it. Own the connection. Okay, step two. Dual post by default. This sounds like a workflow change.
It is. It means stop thinking of yourself as just a TikTok creator. Every piece of vertical video content you make should be formatted and posted simultaneously on YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. Make it automatic.
And how do you optimize for that? Any best practices?
Yes. Keep the edits platform agnostic. That means absolutely no TikTok watermarks. Other platforms penalize that. Also, bake captions directly into the video file itself. Don't rely on the platform's native caption tool. That ensures they appear everywhere and helps accessibility.
And the content itself. Any universal rules?
The big one, the hook rule. Nail your hook, the interesting question, the surprising moment, the value proposition within the first 2.5 seconds. That works across all short-form platforms. Dual posting spreads your risk. Simple as that.
Makes sense. Build it once, distribute it widely, make it platform neutral. Okay, step three is related. Template the format, not the platform. What's the distinction there?
It means don't rely too heavily on things that only work on TikTok. like a specific trending sound that makes no sense elsewhere, or a filter that's unique to the platform, or a feature that you can't replicate on Reels or Shorts. That's platform lore.
So what should creators focus on instead?
Focus on templating the craft, the underlying structure of your videos. What's your repeatable format? Maybe it's strong hook, one key insight, one quick story example, single call to action, leading to your list, remember. Define your show's spine and make it work regardless of the specific platform's bells and whistles.
So you build a recognizable style and structure that travels well, rather than just chasing TikTok-specific trends.
Exactly. It makes your content more durable and less dependent on any single algorithm or feature set. You're building repeatable IP, not just reacting to trends.
Okay, that's smart. Build a core structure. Finally, step 4, and this feels urgent. Archive your back catalogs.
This is your emergency parachute. Do it now. Export your best performing videos. I'd say aim for your top 50 to 100 shorts.
Just the video files?
No, critically, export the descriptions, the captions, any relevant metadata that went with them. You need that text.
Why is the text so important?
Because if TikTok does go dark, you'll want to re-upload these proven winners to Shorts and Reels to keep momentum going. But just uploading the video isn't enough. You need those original descriptions and keywords to help the new algorithms on YouTube and Instagram understand the content and find the right audience for it.
Okay, so the archive isn't just the video, it's the whole package needed for redistribution.
Exactly. And having that archive of 5,100 videos gives you content you can strategically drip feed onto other platforms for maybe 60, even 90 days.
And that buys you crucial time, right?
Yeah.
While your audience figures out where you've landed and you ramp up new content elsewhere.
It's your content buffer. It keeps you visible during that critical migration period. So, the 4 steps again. Own your list. Email, SMS. Dual post everything agnostically. Template your core format. Archive your best stuff with text. Do those, and you've built significant insulation against whatever happens on December 16th or beyond.
That's incredibly practical. A clear roadmap for taking back control. Okay, that was a really thorough breakdown. Let's just quickly recap the absolute key takeaways for everyone listening.
Sounds good. First, the legal basis is solid. The Supreme Court upheld the divest-or-ban law. National security concerns, both data access and potential algorithm manipulation, were the key justifications.
And we learned a sale isn't simple. It really depends on China agreeing to let the algorithm IP go, which is a huge question mark. No IP transfer, likely no meaningful sale.
Right. Second, the deadline. The current date to watch is December 16th, 2025. But we've seen multiple extensions suggesting the White House prefers negotiating a sale over enforcing an immediate ban. Political calculations are definitely in play.
And third, enforcement day itself. It's not an overnight poof. It's a phased process. App stores stop distribution first, killing growth. Then the app itself decays without updates becoming insecure and outdated. And the final blow could be network-level blocking, making it unusable fast.
And fourth, the action plan for creators. Build that insurance policy now. Own your contact list. Email and SMS are key. Dual post to Shorts and Reels by default, making sure edits are platform agnostic. Template your content's core structure, not just platform trends. And archive your best 5,100 videos with their descriptions immediately.
Excellent summary. Now, just before we wrap, I want to circle back to something you touched on, this pattern of delays. What does it really tell us? I want to leave our listeners with a final thought on that.
Well, you have this law, validated by the highest court, giving clear authority to act based on defined national security risks. Yet, the enforcement keeps getting pushed back, month after month, now stretching over a year. If the primary driver was truly the immediate, urgent cessation of those security risks, you'd expect faster action, wouldn't you? The constant delays strongly imply that managing the political fallout of banning a platform used by 170 million people or facilitating a complex, high-value sale has become at least as important, if not more important, than flipping the switch immediately.
So the question becomes, what's the real priority driving the timeline? Is it eliminating the perceived threat ASP, or is it achieving divestiture while minimizing political blowback?
Exactly. The fact that the extensions keep happening, oftentimes around political or economic milestones, suggests the latter might be weighing heavily. The law provides the stick, but the administration seems very hesitant to actually use it, preferring to keep it as leverage in this ongoing negotiation over a potential sale.
It really forces you to think about the difference between having the legal power to do something and having the political will, or finding the opportune moment to actually do it. The law set the stage, but the politics are writing the current act.
That's a great way to put it. It underscores why having your own digital insurance policy, being less reliant on any single platform subject to these pressures, is just smart strategy in today's world.
Absolutely. Food for thought. Build that resilience. Thanks for breaking it all down.
My pleasure.